Well, today is International Nurses Day, and my next guest is sharing important lessons that she learned over her 30-year career as an oncology nurse. Her new book, Radical Acts of Love: How We Find Hope at the End of Life, offers wisdom on how to deal with death. And Janie Brown is joining us this morning from Vancouver. Thanks for waking up so early to talk to us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Anne-Marie.
I have to ask, why write a book about death?
Well, it's a great question. It's been my life's work, working with people with diagnoses of cancer. And I've spent 30 years listening to people tell me what it's like. And after all these years, I decided I'd like to capture some of that wisdom because it felt like it would be wasted if it was wisdom that I just learned about. So this was a wonderful opportunity to write 20 stories of people who are living with cancer and facing the end of life. And so this was a book that I felt could reassure people and really help people to come to terms with what it was like to face the end of life and to do so with a lot of dignity and grace.
And the format of it is so beautiful. It is 20 stories, 20 conversations that you had with people who were dying. One of those conversations really stand out. Can you share with our viewers the story of Daniel?
Oh, I'd love to tell you the story of Daniel. He was a lovely young man in his 30s, a very serious diagnosis, a stage 4 diagnosis of cancer, with two lovely young girls, 7 and 9. And he came to see me to try and figure out how on earth he was going to come to terms with helping his kids prepare for the end of life, which of course is an unthinkable thing to have to do. And little Emily came into the counseling office with him one day, and we started to talk, and I asked her what did she think was going on with her dad. And she said right off the bat, well, I think he's going to die. I know he's going to die, which surprised Daniel and surprised me. And then we got into this wonderful conversation about, well, what are you going to miss about your dad? And she said, well, I'm going to miss so many things, but I'm going to miss his kisses most of all. And I thought, well, how? Oh, that, of course, our eyes are filling up with tears, both of us, Daniel and I. And we started to talk about making a memory box, which is a wonderful thing that kids can make to remember someone who has died. And so when I said, well, how would we capture your dad's kisses? And we could put them in the memory box. And she had this wonderful, moving idea that she said, now, Daddy, why don't you put Mummy's lipstick on you and then kiss pieces of paper? And then we could cut out those pieces of paper and we could put them in the box. And Daddy, would you do that? And of course, Dad, filled with tears, said, what a beautiful way to capture his love that would linger on for years after. So kids really have a way to prepare if we help them to.
You have a fascinating perspective on death and on how we deal or don't deal with it. You say the return of midwives demedicalized the birthing process. How do you want that to happen for death?
Well, I think when we think of birth, we think of this preparation that we do. We don't just go into labor when we think, okay, well, we'll figure out where we're going to go and who's going to help us. And so in death, I think we need to prepare more for death and think about those things. We tend to leave that till it's too late sometimes to figure out the things that are going to help us. So when we've medicalized something like we did in a way with birth, I think the idea is that our communities, our families can learn how to be with people at the end of life and do so very beautifully with, of course, support from medical health teams and nurses and doctors, but that we could kind of reclaim that. And I think it's something that we actually know how to do. We did that for my father when I was in my 30s, and we took care of him with a serious diagnosis that lasted just 13 weeks. And I think we did so very beautifully. And so I think demedicalization means communities, like all of us, learning how to do that. And my book certainly gives people these conversations to help us open up to talking about such a difficult thing.
It is such an important reframe. We know so much, as you say, about the beginning of our life. We should also learn just as much about the end of it. Janie Brown, thank you so much. The book is called Radical Acts of Love. And I want to thank you for joining us. And thank you for all your years of service as a nurse.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.